There was a question that I really liked. It was
Where?
about Nick Mullins' trade value.
Oh, all right. Let's go right to it. I'll see if I can find it. You go into it. Nick Mullins trade value.
Okay, so I think it was a two-part question.
Okay.
Nick Mullins' trade value, and does Kyle hurt it? I'm going to first start with the Kyle angle to it, and I'm going to say no, he does not
That's
hurt
it.
the trade value. And that is because we've seen that Patriots quarterbacks over the years have been extremely valuable in spite playing with Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick, who clearly are as good at drafting and developing quarterbacks as anybody. We've seen it with guys that played with Andy Reid, like Kevin Kolb. So I think we saw it just recently with Teddy Bridgewater, with Sean Payton. So I don't think that his trade value will be limited by the fact that he plays with Kyle. Now, should it be? Maybe, because I do think there is a fact that the coach enhances the player. And if he ends up going to a terrible situation with a terrible coach, there's only so much he can do. And if you give him a big contract, you'll end up blaming him when it's not really his fault.
Right. But I mean, there's so many. It seems that the more success Shanahan has, the more coaches will try to copy what he does and look at a quarterback like Nick Mullins and be like, well, he can do the things I want my quarterback to do.
Absolutely.
And I mean, for example, say Drew Brees retires next year and Jameis Winston isn't exactly what they want in New Orleans. Would they not be interested in Nick Mullins? I mean, he can throw those 5-yard passes that Drew Brees throws to Michael Thomas. Could he not operate that offense that Drew Brees operates?
But I do think that Sean Payton has this infatuation and obsession with Taysom Hill. So I think Sean Payton envisions just taking his offense and turning it into Baltimore's. So I'm very intrigued to see where that goes. Yeah. And then what is Mullins worth is the other part of this question. And to me, I think a third rounder sounds fair. I think a second rounder sounds fair. But ultimately, it's not what he's worth to me or what he's worth to you or what he's worth to Kyle. It's what is someone going to pay for him? And I could totally see a team just throw a first round pick for Nick Mullins, throw a second round pick for Nick Mullins. And it's just because of the premium that a quarterback is. And someone actually brought up the point that I brought up to you on the phone about the Browns being a better fit for Nick Mullins.
Oh, that's a good call.
Brandon and I were actually discussing this exact thing on the phone. We were talking about the fact that if Baker Mayfield flops this year, Kevin Stefanski runs close enough of an offense to Kyle where Nick Mullins would be their ideal, cheaper quarterback until maybe he becomes their guy of the future or they find and draft and develop another guy. But he would be ideal for them with that roster for 2 to 3 years.
And again, what Nick Mullins, I think how he would appeal to people is people that have maybe a short intermediate passing game and people that have a lot of under center play action. Because that's kind of, it's not rare in the NFL today, but it's such a shotgun league. I think a lot of quarterbacks come into the league not having experience doing that and aren't very good at it and don't want to do it. Nick can do it. And if that's the offense they want to run in Cleveland, can Baker Mayfield do it? He didn't do it at Oklahoma. So maybe maybe he can learn to do it, or maybe he won't. I don't know. If that's the offense, the scheme you want, boy, it's kind of like Nick Foles. If you want to run RPOs all day, which I don't know why you would want to do that in 2020, but if you do, he's the guy for you.
And the guy who asked the question, he asked who would pay it first. I have no idea. I just think that because quarterbacks are so temperamental in what the market asks and how they're paid and how they're given opportunities and what's paid for them, like I could totally see something crazy like that happening. And I can't tell you that I would agree with it in any kind of way to pay a first round pick and pay that premium, but I could see it happening.
I think the Raiders would I think John Gruden would love Nick Mullins. To me, there's something similar between Nick Mullins and Rich Gannon in how intense they are. Now, I think teammates like Nick Mullins more than they like Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon was a load, and he would really criticize people. But that, longtime backup, chip on the shoulder type of guy, coach type on the field, I think Gruden would love Nick Mullins. I mean, it's not like Gruden wants to throw the ball down the field anyway.
Yeah, so, but I think Gruden has to make it work with
Carr.
It's such a bad look on his reputation, given Carr's physical gifts, for him to not maximize Carr.
Well, one more thing with this topic. Do you think the Niners are going to trade Nick Mullins? Because I'm not so sure they will.
No. And it comes down to the fact that we've been seeing the contracts that the Case Keenums and the Chase Daniels have been getting every free agency and in the offseason because the backup quarterback is such a premium position. And the thing with the Niners is that they have Nick Mullins as an undrafted free agent for cheap. They can have him for cheap. So they would never be able to have a guy that's a top five type backup quarterback for that kind of money that knows their system and all of that. They're in a win-win situation. They could not maximize his value that way.
Right.
So I think that trading him is just not ideal. And then the other thing is that I think there are questions, or at least I have questions. The thing with Jimmy is that he had an injury when he played after 2 games in New England. He then had the ACL injury, and now he's at the ankle. And I'm not going to label him as injury prone or anything of the sort. But if a guy is getting injured, then it's always good to have your backup.